Hello, everyone. This is David, and in today's interview, I have a special guest, Lauren Stewart. Lauren is a breakthrough coach whose focus is to help people overcome their limiting beliefs, learn to accept their emotions fully, and lead a life of freedom. Lauren made a big shift a couple of years ago and is now showing people how to do the same in whatever area they feel stuck in. So, Lauren, thank you for being here and welcome.
So great, David. It's so great. Thanks for having me.
So we actually met a couple of years ago where you helped me with some of my struggles that I was going through. And since then, you've made quite a big leap of faith that later on we will get to. So I would like to ask you, what does breakthrough mean to you? And how do you work with people?
Ooh, okay. So breakthrough, thanks, David. So breakthrough is relieving yourself from guilt and shame. It's like when you have a moment where you can recognize genuinely within your being some truth about yourself that feels really empowering, and it usually involves like the dropping off of something super limiting or disempowering. To me, that's what a breakthrough is. I mean, it can be the littlest thing. You just click and suddenly see a pattern. Or it can be like a really big deal where you're, realizing something from a past trauma, say, that made you believe something your whole life that you suddenly like, wow, realize it isn't even the case. Those are really, those are the best because they create a lot of change and they relieve a lot of suffering.
So the breakthrough, do you see it as something? Does it have to be something big? You know, people might associate it. Oh, I gotta make some big breakthrough to change. Does it have to be something so big, or?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little puzzle piece clicks together, like back when that happened. And it's the exact same feeling I'm having now. I wonder if there's a connection. Recognizing a pattern. Wow, this kind of relationship, mostly in relationships, you know, what's the common thread in all these relationships? This is what always ends up happening. This is the common theme. What is that saying about, my needs
So,
and
so
who
it,
I am?
so it, so it feels like those big breakthroughs that people usually talk about. Uh, Usually, those small breakthroughs lead to those big ones. Would you agree that?
Oh yeah, it's always a series. It's like noticing one pattern and then noticing how that's been playing out in life and the limitation. And breakthroughs always going from something bad to something better. I think that's the main distinction through some type of realization. But yeah, it's usually a chain of little teeny tiny ones and then a bang, and then like another few more little leads, and then oh my God. But breakthroughs can also be spiritual, just like not even personal, just, sitting outside looking at the stars going, wow. Like I had this one weird breakthrough once where it was just like, I am so bored with my mind. I don't know if you ever had that feeling. Have you ever had that thought where you're just like,
Maybe.
I need new thoughts. Come on, universe. And I was just like looking at the night sky like I like to do at night. And I was just sitting there. And I actually said to the universe, I was like, just really want something new. I just did clear your mind, just go into nothing. And what I felt was just this like immense sense that that the world was all in the same spot at the same time. Not like frozen in space, but that we were all in the same spot at the same time, which we always are. But I just became hyper aware of it. So it was like, is this oneness? I think in those spiritual breakthroughs is the download of what it means to be a person. That means that the limitations from our childhood or our life or the beliefs that hurt to have, it kind of puts those into a different perspective.
Talking of those breakthroughs and you working with people, is there a way that you can kind of lead people to have those breakthroughs, or is it just random?
Sit down, stare at the sky.
How do you work with people to have those breakthroughs?
feel your emotions. Go into where the spot in your body that is uncomfortable and hold some space for that. That one thing, there's so much resistance against our emotion that we have, especially the scapegoats out there. They have a really hard time accepting that emotions are right. You know, it's like this feeling comes up and then you're like, I'm bad, I'm wrong. Why am I feeling this? This isn't right. So that now there's a whole nother problem. So actually, you know, in the beginning, the biggest, I'd say, learning curve to a breakthrough is that step right there. Everything after that is just like boom, 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 boom.
So the first step you're talking about, meaning actually having the attitude of, okay, this is okay to feel, this is okay that I have this emotion, this is okay that I'm going through this, something
exactly.
like that. Okay, right.
That because it's so practiced. You know, it's a lifetime of having this neurology and this physiology, this experience. Here's a thought. Now it created this emotion, or a thought being a subconscious happening, shall we say? Right? There's subconscious thinking, and then there's our conscious thinking. So the subconscious could have some kind of like opinion about something, and our body's now in a contraction. You know, let's say someone with super high social fears, you know, and I'm gonna just bulldoze it, I'm gonna go out, and they like, their brain is saying we should do this, come on, but subconsciously their body's like, oh, I am going to die any second now. And so it's those thoughts that I'm working, that is the terrain of my work, you know, because the other side is like, you know, the other voice of us is basically the manager trying to get us to move, like, go. They're powerless. The one who has all the power, the one who actually has their hands on the wheel, is the one who's in resistance. The one who says, we're going to die if we go outside. Our life can only be as good as our subconscious child holding the wheel.
And to that, we're going to talk about that more specifically later on. I want to remind ourselves so we can get back to that. But first, I would like to talk about how it all started for you. Ask you, you know, how you got to this work. What breakthrough did you do to? I want you to mention what actually, you know, a couple of years ago, what happened and how you started traveling and how it all relates to the work you do now.
I think I'm going to back up to the beginning briefly. A big breakthrough for me was around one of these beliefs that I had, that I was dispensable. And I want to share this story because first off, a lot of people don't maybe realize how powerful these experiences are in their life and how they can carry over into their adult life. Little things, because this is something that I buried like really deeply for a long time, and I was like, I'm over it, and kind of totally wasn't. So I'll tell you what happened. Well, I was 12, and I was at my friend's house, and I was having a sleepover, and my dad calls, and he says, your mom just took her life, and I'll be over to pick you up in 30 minutes. It was just like that. No, nothing. Just here's some facts, and I'll come get you. So he picks me up, and I just remember on the way home, you know, I decided two things. One, that I wasn't kind of like worth it to stick around for. And then second, that it was my fault. I really had this idea that, because I was kind of like a wild kid, and I kind of had this idea that I made my mom, she was suffering from a mental illness, and I kind of had this idea that I was such a bad kid that I had made her worse, and that I drove her to it. And this, I mean, it was just lodged itself in my mind, boom, right then and there. And I remember it. I was just like, okay. And so, long story short, I basically spent the rest of the many years and many relationships kind of trying to unprove that, trying to unprove that that, I thought basically love was a one-way street, and that the pattern in the relationships was that all the guys didn't love me. Like I had to win them, and they liked me enough, right, to like even marry me, two of them. But there was this like whole like I have to win them, and that was trying to overturn this belief, and well, it never worked. So yeah. By the way, the husband I was with, we had divorced, but we were living together. So that was uncomfortable. My job was uncomfortable. I was very unhappy at my work as a massage therapist, and I was getting like really triggered a lot. And I didn't like living where I was living. Like everything in my life was painful to my emotions, painful to me. So here I am waking up with this emotional pain, like, what am I to do? Totally triggered. And it took me like a few hours to get over it, and I to get through it. And I look at my phone, and I realize I see the text from my boss that I was late for work. I had missed work altogether. Like I was supposed to be there like hours ago. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm done. Like, how am I gonna leave this house and this town and this job and this everything with now no money? So the problem that I was having was that my emotions were just off the charts. I was like up, I was like down, and there was no consistency. And then on top of that, I was like, oh no, I'm getting schizophrenic. I'm going to go insane. I'm going to kill myself. Like that's I had this experience. I saw what happened to my mom. And so it was just like, all right, I need help. So I thought I'm going to go get psychiatric evaluation and get medication. And then I was like, nah, that is so totally not me. There's got to be another way. And then suicide flashed through my head, but like, I was a little bit upset because I was like, I can't even do that because I'm not going to put my son through that. So it's a little bit like, well, that's off. Now what? And then it just dawned on me, wait, this is about money. All I need is help. All I need is to pay somebody to help me. That's all I need. And literally, David, this sentence went through my head. Wouldn't it be better to be in debt than dead? And it just like, that just sunk in. I remember I was sitting on my bed, like how you get after one of these hangovers, and I was like petting my cat and calming down. And I'm like, that's it. So I don't know, like that week I found our friend Anthony, a spiritual life coach that I found on Facebook, actually totally synchronistically. Almost $1,000 was like all I had. But anyway, the thought remained that I'm worth it, But the next breakthrough was I was doing one of these processes that he had shown me and that I learned through Teal Swan completion process. And I was in one of these processes, and I'm like going back in time and my old 12-year-old self, and I'm like, bang, right back in that moment, where my dad had called and said that. And then I'm in my room, and I'm holding this book that my mom had left for me, and I'm reading the cover where she writes something. What I did get from that was, oh my God, my mom had the presence of mind to write me a note. Because all along I had been thinking she abandoned me. I'm not good. I'm no good. She didn't stick around for me, right? And it's probably my fault. And then I'm remembering that she had actually tried to take my sister's life, which is quite sad, but obviously she didn't. But she had made an attempt, and that was a really scary thing for our family. She had tried to do that with my sister, and then wrote me this note. It just basically meant that she loved me, and she was trying to save me, and she was trying to save our whole family. And like, what an act of love. Like complete, absolute sacrifice. Total different meaning than the original meaning. And when I really realized that her act was one of the deepest love a mother could ever have, like she probably knew the price, like a child to be without their parent better than a dead kid. So I just burst into tears. I was just like, holy crap, my mom actually loved me. And because I had this stored up this idea that she didn't, and that what that meant was that I was like broken, that I came from the factory all messed up and there's no hope. This suddenly was like in itself. Like I didn't have to do anything. And all I had to do was realize that, and then and on up. And I was like, that's it. And actually after that, I started to be able to wake up. So I still have a hard time in the morning. I still have a hard time with mornings. I'm not going to lie, but nothing like it used to be. I mean, I can get up now. It's like 20 seconds of like, oh shit. Okay. And that's okay. I'm learning to live with that. And it's getting better and better and better and better every single year. But 20 seconds is a lot better than 3 hours, and I can do my life. I can actually like have a dream and an idea and go for it, as opposed to like want to die.
Wow, I just wanted to say what a powerful story, and thank you for sharing that. I feel that it's something that a lot of people might have gone through, might have forgotten they've gone through, that they carry inside themselves. And until we start talking about it, it will not be resolved, right? So thank you for sharing that, and also mentioning the idea that going through the breakthrough and changing some stuff. It might, like you say, you might still a little bit struggle with the mornings, but it's nothing like before. And thank you for saying that, because I feel that some people might have the idea that, okay, I need to change this, and then if I still do this thing that I wanted to change, that there's something wrong with me or something.
That's a trap.
You mentioned but when you were coaching with Anthony, you mentioned a process that, or a method that he taught you to go through. So we can. You talked about it a little bit now, but we might go into specifics a little bit later. So what happened after you started coaching after that first month?
What happened after I started coaching after that first month is practicing these exercises from my coach about like Imagineering, Bentino Massaro's Imagineering stuff. And so we were going through that, like, wouldn't it be great if, and putting your future into the past and talking about how it used to happen so you could blah, 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 right? So I was doing these things, and I was like in the shower one day, I was like, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't it be great if? And it was kind of hard to do at first. I was like, okay, have chocolate cake. All right, I can think of that. All right, have sex with a Greek god. And I was like, yeah, that'd be really fun. And then I was like, I don't know, do improv in Europe. And I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. So there I am. I'm in New Jersey, right? I'm living with my ex. I've got like no money, a job I hate, and in this house I don't want to be in. And I'm standing there with this ridiculous thought, like just straight out of a comic strip. Like, okay, that's fun. That's nice, Lauren. And I'm like, wait. So get out, tell her. I'm like, go run over my computer. I'm like, improv, Europe. Wait, they have to speak English. Okay, where do they speak English? I don't know. Barcelona improv. Let's see what comes up. Literally, like 20 minutes later, Anna Isabella texts me back. Hey, I'm from Barcelona Improv Group. Yeah, because my text to them was, when do you have class? And I was just like laughing my ass off on the other side, like, this is a funny joke. I was basically just trying to step out of my comfort zone. That's all this was, right? So I was just like, this will be funny. Ha 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 ha. But a human is talking to me now. And she's like, oh yeah, we have classes on Sunday. I remember that. I was like a 3 or something. And I was like, well, okay, I might come. And I'm like, the fuck was that? Like, I just, then she's like, well, actually, you should totally go to the Greek Mount Improv. Okay, what just happened here? 2 weeks later, I got my ticket. And you want to hear a funny manifestation story that's annoying?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I hate these kind of stories when I hear them because they're annoying, but I'm going to tell one because it's funny. So I really was like, this has to happen. And by the way, my coach, I considered him like a genie in my bottle. So having him there, it almost made me, I mean, you know, Anthony, you know, it made me feel invincible. That's what he gave me. He made me feel great about myself. I decided I have to go to Europe, and I already had this wish, right? I can't put the genie back in. So, okay, I need $2,500. I had like $500. So I figured my birthday's coming up. I'm just going to ask all my family for money. And then I don't know. So there's another story, but I'm not going to tell it because it's too long. But basically, before this one, I had this revelation that I needed to help people get out of pain, that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to this because I know what that suffering is like. I'm like, all right, so now's the time. I've got my mission, and now I have a passion, a fun thing. But now I really need money. Like, okay, it's getting real now. And so my coach referred a client to me. So I put together my first post. A person responded to me, and I felt I resonated with amazingly, and we ended up working together. This was amazing. And also found $1,000 under my bed. I had remembered that a while ago I had this idea I would buy a house, and I was terrible at saving, and I just kept putting money away and stuffing it under my bed, literally. And I had that thought once I was trying to save money, and I was like, wait a second, I got money under my bed, and I thought I had $600, but when I counted it, I was like 6, 7. Wait a second, 8, 9. I was 980 something. It's like, oh my god, I found $1,000 under my bed.
Good thing to remember at this time, right?
Yeah, and it's good that I didn't remember it before then.
Right.
So anyway, so after I had kind of going through these series of breakthroughs and then feeling good about myself and having some positive momentum, finding the money, booking the ticket, then I got to Europe, and then I just decided I'm going to have a honeymoon. It's time for me to celebrate me. And I had never really done that. I felt like I kind of won myself, as corny as that sounds. It's like, I'm going to take myself on a honeymoon. And yeah, and then went to Europe, and then kind of like just kept making it work. I did pet sitting for a while to offset the rent in New Jersey, and a bunch of other kind of manifestations happened. Living in I wanted to live on a Greek island for a year. That was my goal. And it was just such a pipe dream. It was like, that's ridiculous. But it happened. You know, I got one pet sit, and then another, and then they kept referring me, and then I eventually got a paid one, and it ended up being over a year.
It feels like, when you're talking about it now, the sequence of events, the way you describe it, like when you go and make the first step towards your vision, towards your goals, or towards, you could say, feeling good, self-love, even, that somehow these things start to happen, like randomly, synchronistically, right? Is that how it felt?
Yeah, absolutely. The synchronicities kind of were gaining momentum. And I think that's what happens with synchronicities. And also, what was so great about doing all this inner child healing stuff was that it made the positive focus actually land, you know, because then when I was like, the universe has your back, I could kind of believe it, and it actually felt really exciting instead of a feeling of like, oh great, and then yuck, you know, like when you kind of try to dream of an ideal future and it feels really good for a second, but there's this weird icky feeling mixed in with it that holds you down. It started to be like there was less of that icky, yucky, holding down, anchory feeling, that I could honestly believe myself. When I left for Europe, I had already overcome so much. Like, I don't know, onboarded more of myself. That sounds really silly, but I've never said it that way, but it's kind of like what it felt like. I felt like I had more of me to kind of work with. And I cared about my feelings. I was really used to caring about how I felt. And so therefore, setting boundaries was not a risk, as it used to be a risk. But then caring about myself, I noticed I could set a boundary in my home or at work or anything. And then beyond that, I could do something good for myself. So I think healing is also, you heal so you can feel good about yourself, but then you can also start saying no to stuff, that it didn't feel safe to say no to because you had to have the thing. There's always that trade-off, like I need to have this bad thing because it's keeping me secure. And so it's easier to take risks. It didn't feel so risky is what I'm saying. Yeah.
It feels like you made, by doing the child work, by going through the negative stuff, you made a space to actually, for the good stuff to come in, like you were describing, this positive thoughts coming in,
Yeah.
inspirations, right?
Yeah, there was a space for it, exactly. And it's almost like it was an evolutionary next, just natural place to be. It's just a natural next thought. Or maybe as a child, there after they get hurt, let's say, and then they get some attention, then eventually they're going to run off and play. So it was like, that was like running off and playing. It was just a natural next thing, And then, like this, I know you're familiar with Bashar's teachings too, so it's all about follow your highest excitement. That was starting to make sense. It was like, oh, the jetpack and the anchor. Now the anchor is, the thing that holds us back, that anchor on our foot of the childhood trauma is either lighter or gone. Temporarily gone and then back a little bit, but eventually it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And then the jetpack of positive affirmations or visualizations, then that tool can act as jet fuel to go. So then once that's happening, then like you're saying, the synchronicities, you start to notice them, and then noticing them acts as more jet fuel.
And it keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, until you get another anchor, and then you're like, I thought I healed this already. But that's okay.
Now, talking about, you mentioned trauma and triggers. So can you please explain to people what it is, how you approach it, and how it relates to this conversation?
Trauma basically being a childhood experience where, your nervous system was completely overwhelmed, and a new relationship to that experience has been downloaded into the system. And some people think that trauma is just a one-off, really super randomly bad, very bad experience, But then there's also like things that we probably don't really remember: being left to cry for too long, getting lost in a supermarket, and a whole bunch of other things we probably don't remember. The psychological explanation of these is that when we're traumatized, our physiology and our emotional state and our physical state, they get kind of frozen in time and into these little packets of holographic memory that's in our body. And so then when we're interacting in life, and I'm with a boyfriend who's holding me over a bridge, true story. He's teaching me how to drive, and I'm not doing it right. And he needs to make sure that I understand what about to die feels like. So, I'm hanging upside down, looking at a river, being held by my feet. That's trauma. That's pretty bad. That's all its whole own new trauma. But actually, if it's after the age of, let's say, 10, it's one theory is, and I particularly really feel that this is totally true, is that all these new bad experiences are kind of echoes of the imprint, or our psyche is looking for resolve. So it goes out and it almost looking for it in a way, because subconsciously we want resolve, right? So we want to resolve this thing that we're obsessed about, because it's got this belief that we're shitty and we need to fix that, because that's no life, right? So we go about life trying to resolve this thing by creating the very same feeling in our body so that we can in real time see it get fixed. Of course it doesn't, right?
So for example, let's say a situation in our adulthood happens, let's say in a relationship, our partner is abusive to us or they cheat on us. Is this the kind of thing that reflects the original imprint or the trauma
Yeah.
relate to that? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say they're abusive. Then that would be sort of like our psyche saying, hey, I need to experience this bad part because what I'm really, really, really wanting is to know that I'm lovable. And I'm frozen in time and locked in this. I need to resolve feeling lovable only after I've been in the same state that I learned I was unlovable. If I'm seeking to get the partner to actually love me after he's horrible, then theoretically, hypothetically, like according to our kind of stupid subconscious, we would be able to check the box and be like, oh, that's what resolution feels like. Now I'm lovable.
Right.
Right. Another popular understanding is the encoding of the information in our nervous system. That's kind of like a frozen holographic packet that keeps coming up until it is resolved, and that's through this shadow work, inner child work stuff.
Right. And the triggers, they what is a trigger? They come, obviously, I guess it relates to traumas.
If this belief of I'm unlovable is sitting in the body in an emotional state that's almost like just ready to be activated at any time, it's kind of lying dormant. It's available to be activated. And once it is, we would call that I'm triggered. The external condition, and it could be even a smell or our own thought or negative emotion itself, can act as its own trigger. If our safety or lovability was jeopardized when we were expressing negative emotion, go to your room till you're happy, which is what I used to hear, then there's an association with negative emotion. A trigger might be when an external situation happens that puts us in the emotional state of the traumatized state.
So the next question that comes to mind is, so how does someone who feels stuck in whatever area in their life, what can they do? How do they start when they feel like they can't, whether they feel fear that they can't leave their job that they hate, or their partner, or they want to do something new, and so how can they start?
First off, it's just you want to find the emotion that you're feeling and then care about it, and then you want to find the exact problem and then allow yourself to have one, which sounds weird, but that's a thing. Like, can I have a problem? And then the third one is to find the value that is missing in why you're so upset. Find the value and then love yourself that you have that value. These three things are tools to bring us into this space of like, I'm okay. In bring us back into a state of okayness with ourself. And there's a lot of safety in that. And that's empowerment, from feeling triggers and childhood trauma creates disempowerment, and all the belief systems that support, and subconscious belief systems and structures that support disempowerment. I mean, anything that is painful is because it's like some kind of lack in some way. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. I can't. I don't have agency for safety. I'm not good enough to have a really happiness or a great life. And, there's that pact with, I got to stay bad, or something bad will happen if I fail, can't, the ability to not fail is something that plagues a lot of people too. And so they can't take risk, and they can't, run and play like we were talking about before, when, you get hurt and then you get taken care of, and then you're like, okay, I go build a fort. So in order to go run along and play, we need to feel a couple of things. And these three will help us feel those things. And when I say feel, what I'm really meaning is believe, but we need to feel it in our body, and that's how we know we believe it. So our subconscious is feeling things all the time and believing things all the time, and the way our body feels is the way our subconscious thinks.
So is it fair to say to simplify that, basically we are turning our attention inside instead of outwards.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the first step, you want to know the first step?
Okay, the first step.
Okay, find the emotion and care. Everyone now is triggered. Probably a lot. You're either alone, and that's sucking, or you're with people, and that's sucking. So, either way, we're triggered. We're like, a client of mine yesterday said, we can't get away from our subconscious right now. It's time to resolve this. Yeah, quarantine. Let's go. Let's resolve all this shit. So find the emotion and care. You get triggered. You're lonely or you're irritated with someone. It's probably one of the two. Notice where you feel the emotion in your body. Point to it, like literally, and be with the feeling. That's just like emotional vipassana is what it's called. And just 101, try and be with the feeling, because when we can be with the feeling, we can get to what's actually bothering us. So it's a little bit like Harry Potter, third one, the game where he's running around in the game movie, where they're in the game and they're in the maze and he's hanging on a tree. Do you remember that part where he's hanging on the tree and then he's like, I gotta let go? No, he's like looking down at the sky because the world went upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So the instinct is to hold on to the tree, because if you let go, you're going to fall up into the sky and then die and be lost forever. But he realizes how to hack the game is to let go, because you have to trust. And then as soon as he lets go, the world reverts and whoosh, he lands on his feet on the ground. It's like that.
So it's about going into that feeling, trusting that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to be like Harry Potter and let go of the branch, trusting that I'm going to feel my feeling. And the way to do that is to say, I'm right to feel this way, because then that gives you some strength, some validity. So that would be find the emotion and care. The care part is all of that. My happiness matters, and so does my sadness. So our happiness can't matter if our sadness doesn't matter. So that brings us to the second one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second one is, now that you're all vindicated, yeah! The second one is find the problem and then have one. A lot of the thing for a lot of people that I work with, and people struggle with like intense emotion and get triggered by their emotion, is that it's not really okay to have a problem. The kickback reaction to negative emotion is something's wrong with me. And then right away that invalidates that there's a problem, a legit problem. We just like, I have to fix myself, or I don't have to fix myself. Nothing's wrong. So finding the problem, make the problem concrete. Wait a minute, let's get clear on the circumstances that you want. Get super clear. Yeah, which just leads right into the third one, which is find what you're valuing. We want to find what it is we're valuing that's missing. It might be like, I'm valuing, let's say, feeling like an equal. And then landing on that, yes, this is what I'm valuing. Because solving the problem is only part of it. Solving our energy is really the only thing we're doing. And by solving the problem, it actually solves our energy, and that's why it feels good. And what I mean by solving our energy, solving our state or alignment or all this, right? Solving our state of being is actually what we're trying to do. So when we land on, oh, that's what I'm really upset about, if it helps us come into a better, stronger place within ourselves, great. That's all we're trying to do. Landing on the value that helps us come into a more settled, stronger, more self-loving place in ourselves, more okayness, great. That's all it's doing. It's not like, oh, yay, I have the answer.
So it's about the value, finding what you value, and I guess it kind of makes you feel more solid in yourself.
Exactly.
When you find that, right?
You feel solid, and it's like the problem now becomes very honest. You learn what is you're really actually needing, that this situation has kind of exposed.
Mhm.
Part of that is love that about yourself, that you have that value. Because now we're not hating ourselves. Those triggers lack of worth. Always. They always come back to some version of I'm not worthy.
So, Lauren, before we wrap this up, is there anything that you would like to share with people?
And so this is a little bit of a jump to sort through the whole day, and just pull out what went right, and write it down and start keeping a list of that, because this is all about building self-trust, and building this idea that I can believe in myself and the universe has my back, and this feeling of I'm supported, I'm not alone, and I'm supported in my desires. And in order to do that, we need the jet fuel. So this is the jet fuel. This is the positive focus that will help us once that anchor is lifted. And this is a fast way to do it. It's just like what went right. And then you start to realize all these things that you value. You're like, oh, this went right. Wow. And then you write it down every day and you're like, wow, I didn't realize how important that was to me. So you start to learn so much about yourself, and you can start making more decisions and shape your life based on that list. So like after a month or even 2 weeks, you can start to actually intentionally organize your life based on that list. If you're thinking about, you need to start a new business because you lost your job or whatever, you can start thinking, well, here's all the things that matter to me the most. Here's proof. So in terms of finding your passion, that's a tool for that as well.
That's great. It feels like it all leads to basically empowering yourself to take ownership of your life, and being the creator, you could say, that you can create your life, that you're not the victim of the circumstances, even though it might feel like that. And it's valid to feel that way, as we were talking about it, right?
Exactly.
And but I love that it's all that. It doesn't mean that when you go inside of those yucky negative emotions and all that not so good feeling stuff, that it might sound cliche, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel, that it makes space for the good things, for empowerment, for amazing things to happen in your life, basically, where you can create it. That's
exactly.
great.
And I like the way you say it makes space for it, because right now there's so much, I think, time pressure, that the other thing is to make that space, to a little bit have the permission to slow down and reevaluate. And if I could say anything else to wrap it up, it would be to take a few days of being with the emotions, and then asking yourself what went right, and try to find, to know yourself better and to care more, to start actively participating in your happiness matters, so how you feel matters. And really, everything's so whacked out right now that there's almost no better time. If not in a pandemic, when are we going to stop and be like, wait, what is important to me? Literally the world's shifting. Every single structure and industry and economy and relationship, even, everything's reordering itself. And so I say get on the surfboard of that, and do it. Now isn't the time to be certain about our old ways. It's actually the time to be like, wait, what do I want? What do I need? What is this all about? Connect that present moment awareness with right where you are right now. That's the first part of emotional vipassana anyway. And just,
it's about, as you said, I like caring about your happiness and your state of being, basically. So thank you, Lauren, for your message and sharing your story and everything. It was great, and I'm sure it will inspire other people to take things, bits and pieces from it into their lives. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much
sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so honored. Really, really awesome.
So just last note, if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
breakfreewithlauren.com.
Okay.
I do free 1 hour consultations just to kind of like help see where you are and if there's anywhere you can shift, and to give you some pointers along the way, and also to discuss if you wanted to do any work further. Yeah.
Great. So again, thank you, and thank you for watching. So, and we'll see each other in another interview. So have a good
That'd
one.
be great.
Bye bye.